Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Amps and Speaker Cabinets. Okay, now, I did a series of videos recently because I had acquired a Seismic Audio 1x12V for vintage. Though it's a new cabinet, Luke Seismic Audio 1x12 cabinet. I did a video on that. And at the time that I got that cabinet, it came in an open back configuration. Now, this might be a little repetitive, I guess. But real quickly, the Seismic Audio cabinet, right, comes in an open back configuration. On the back of the cabinet, it has two panels and a space in between on the back of the speaker cabinet, right? And what that allows you to do is get sound coming out of the front of the speaker cabinet and coming out of the back. Okay, and as opposed to, you can put a piece of wood in there, right, and make it a closed back cabinet where all the sound comes only out of the front, right? Now, how does that change the sound, right? Well, and we're going to run a test here. And in fact, that's why I'm making this video, is because it was the opportune time to do that test, because I already had one identical cabinet with identical speaker in a closed back configuration where I'd already made a piece of wood for it. Now, the great thing about the Seismic Audio cabinet is that you can put that piece of wood in and remove it at will, so you can have your choice, you know, of closed back cabinet or open back cabinet, and swap them out as you want to, which is really superb. However, Seismic Audio does not provide the wood, right? And as I had mentioned in my other videos, I had gotten a piece of wood just from a shelf, and I mean, it's not exactly the greatest wood either, you know. In fact, I think it's just like particle board or whatever the cheap shelving is made out of. But it was the right color and the right width. Great. So I took it to a lumber store, and they actually cut the piece for me, and it fit right in there. It was perfect. Take a look at the new one, the back, and you'll see there's a slot right there. See that? Yeah, right there is that slot. So if you want to close back, you got to put a piece of wood there. And in fact, my used one, which has a, yeah, so you can see it's closed back here. And I'll give you my thoughts after we take a listen to it. So here you go. Here's 1x12 open back versus 1x12 closed back. Okay, so let's take a listen to the open back cabinet first. Okay, and now the close back. Okay, now, to my ears, one, they both sounded great. I really like the sound of both. However, I will say that the closed back cabinet was very focused, right, when you're in front of it, okay, and very directional. In other words, if you're sitting off to the side of the cabinet, you're not going to hear it as well. What that resulted in is less bass, right, but it was more focused bass. The other thing is, it was less airy in the room. I mean, you could tell where it was coming from, and didn't quite fill the room quite as much. However, it was more punchy and tighter, and for a small room especially, I could hear different parts better. It was clearer, if you like. And the open back was louder, surprisingly. It really was louder, more bass as well. However, it wasn't a focused bass. It was kind of a bass. I mean, you could hear the bass, but it was kind of jumbled up with the other sounds, and weren't quite sure where it was coming from. It was in the room, you know, and that's the third thing, is it filled up the room really well. So, I guess one thing I should have mentioned too is that the closed back cabinet seemed a little punchier as well, as to be expected. Definitely if you're playing like metal and chugging along or whatever, right? Then a closed back cabinet would make sense for that. Very interesting comparison. And for the Seismic audio cabinet, I love the idea of being able to switch between both, depending on the situation and the room I'm playing in and those kinds of things. So there you go. Kind of a short video. And you'll notice too, I use the same sound example that I used in the last video, right? And the reason is, it was a loop that I had played, and I used it to compare, you know, the speaker cabinet on the right, which was the open cab, which I had just gotten, it was brand new, and the older used Seismic audio cabinet, which had the piece of wood I had added. Okay? Very interesting. I love the idea of having a choice of either one. You know, very, very interesting. I can't really say I like one more than the other. However, I think that in a small room, like my living room, for example, right, it was easier to hear the parts individually, you know, because the bass wasn't quite as overwhelming with the closed back cabinet. It wasn't quite as loud either, though. You know. So they both have their pros and cons, I think. Now let me know what you think. What did you hear? Alright. Very good. See you next time. Bye.